Hi everyone, I'm Wouter from Dimensional Insight, and in this video we're going to talk about Workbench. Workbench is our integrated development environment that allows you to prepare your data so you can analyze it with our platform. I'm now handing you over to Alyssa Mintz from our education department to tell you all you need to know about Workbench.
In this video, you'll get an overview of the Workbench component of the Dimensional Insight Diver platform. Workbench is an integrated development environment that allows you to manage raw data from multiple sources and transform it for use in Diver Platform's business intelligence tools, ProDiver, DivePort, and DiveTab. For example, let's say you're a wine and beverage distributor and you want to use ProDiver to gain some insight into your sales numbers. You've been collecting sales data all along, but you want the ability ProDiver gives you to dive down into the details to understand the why behind the numbers. You also want the ability to create DivePort dashboards, so you and your team can get at-a-glance information about key performance metrics. And finally, you want to be able to access your data from mobile devices using DiveTab. Let's take a look at the tasks that you or your developers need to perform to prepare your data for use in ProDiver, DivePort, and DiveTab. We'll also take a look at the Workbench tools you'll use to perform these tasks. The tasks include identifying the data sources you want to work with, extracting the data from those data sources, transforming the data for use in ProDiver, DivePort, and DiveTab, checking the data for errors, scheduling the updating of the data, and securing the data. Note that this video provides just a general overview of the process you'll follow to produce output for use in ProDiver, DivePort, and DiveTab. In practice, the complexity and length of each task will vary depending on the number of your data sources and your particular processing and output requirements. The first task we'll perform in our sample scenario is to identify the data we want to work with. Workbench can work with many different types of data, including data from business applications, data in data lakes and data warehouses, and user-generated files such as Excel files and other types of flat files. After you've identified your data sources, you can use Workbench to extract the data from them and look at it more closely to confirm that it's the data you want to use. In our example, our source data is in a text file that does not include standard column headers. This means we need to extract the data with a tool called Integrator, which allows us to create a meaningful name for each column as part of the extraction process. After you've extracted the data, you transform it into a special type of database called a columnar database, or CBase. We'll transform our extracted data into a CBase using a tool called Spectre Builds. Let's talk a little bit more about CBases and why they're useful. Typically, databases store data in rows. A CBase stores data in columns, placing the information needed for each query in close proximity in memory. Structuring data in column form means you don't have to retrieve the entire row to get the information you need. This makes data retrieval and processing operations much faster than they would otherwise be. Now that we've built our CBase, we can check the data in it to verify that we're getting the results we expected. This data check includes 3 different types of actions. Basic error checking. For example, making sure that Spectre Build ran without errors, which you can do by checking the Spectre execution log. Data typing. That is, reviewing the data formatting decisions Spectre Build makes for you automatically and making any changes you'd like to make. For example, you might want to specify 2 decimal places for a column of numbers. data validation. That is, consulting with your data analysts, who may be more familiar with the data you're transforming than you are, to make sure no information is missing from the final CBase. You or your data analysts can use ProDiver to explore the data in a CBase and validate it. ProDiver is not, technically speaking, a Workbench tool, but it does play an important role in the development process. When you're satisfied that your CBase looks the way you want it to, you can automate the process of building and rebuilding that CBase on a regular schedule so that you can continue to update the CBase as new information is added to the underlying data sources. You perform this task, the automatic rebuilding of the CBase, using the production tool. You can use the production tool to create a script that calls for the building of a new CBase in a staging area, the deletion of the old copy, and the copying of the new CBase to the location of the original CBase, all on a schedule that repeats, for example, once every 24 hours. And finally, you'll want to limit access to the CBase to only those users who should have access to it. You can do this by adjusting your DiveLine server settings. The DiveLine server settings let you specify the individual users who can access the server, the groups, that is, collections of users who can access the server, and the users and groups who can access individual projects. After you've defined your users and groups, you can refine your security settings still further by defining special properties for access to data. Properties allow you to permit or deny access to data based on specific criteria that do not include individual user or group names. Properties therefore make it easier to keep access control settings up to date when there are personnel changes in your organization. So that's the overview of one possible development scenario for a Diver platform project, and of the Workbench tools you would need to complete each development task in that scenario. In this scenario, we identified the data we wanted to use in ProDiver, DivePort, and DiveTab, extracted the data using Integrator, transformed the data into a columnar database, or CBase, using Spectre Builds, checked the data in the CBase using various methods, set up a script to update the CBase at regular intervals using production, and controlled access to the CBase using the server settings and project settings.
Thanks, Alyssa. Well, that's all we have for you for today. If this video was helpful, let us know in the comments and by hitting the like button. If you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when we release new videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.